So welcome everyone to another town hall, the second one of the day. Definitely recommend watching the recording from earlier if you get a chance. There's quite a lot discussed there. Probably about an hour and 20 minutes, so you might need to skip through some bits, but a lot of discussions around roadmap, and I showed off some of Siteguru's changes, which I'll be doing again today. But yeah, worth having a look. So I'll get started. I'll share my screen and then we can run through it. Great. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, Colin normally runs these, but he's not feeling as good today, so I'm handling this bit for him. But I was going to demo a few bits anyway to do with roadmap and some updates. I just have to manage letting people in and everything. Got Helen joining now, I think. Just make sure Helen gets in okay and gets set up with audio. Hi Helen, hope you're well. Imagine you're on mute. Oh, we've got DJ as well, so let's let everybody in. Cool. Hi DJ, hope you're well.
Hey guys.
We're just getting started, so haven't missed anything. Yeah, just running through the agenda for today, and then we'll open it up to you guys for any questions and stuff. But yeah, the main things that we were going to discuss was giving an update on user roles. So finally, we're at the end of that. That was a big one. I can show you a quick video of where we are, the final bits really, and that's going to be out very soon. I would say, I'm going to say this month. That's what I said earlier. It's quite a big one, so there's a lot of tidying up to do and just making sure that everything's all correct to replace the current roles. So I'll show you that quickly and then show what we've got in store for what's next. But it's actually a really great opportunity just to get some feedback from you guys on what is most urgent for you. We had a really good chat earlier in the other session and tried to get sort of the most urgent thing, your kind of top one, and just make sure that we tweak the immediate roadmap if we need to. And then after that, I'll quickly go through some Siteguru's changes just to make sure everybody's aware. Really, we've really in the last a month ago tried to explain how we want to do it. We want to make sure that it works alongside and doesn't have any negative impact on you guys in terms of we do not want to do end client work through there. Really, we're not going to offer any design, strategy, marketing, that kind of stuff. So just trying to make sure it fits in well and show you what we've got set up, and also obviously if you want to use it, just explain the changes and improvements that we've made. Colin was going to go through submitting some client projects and case studies if you wanted to, and some help documentation feedback. I think I'll just do that quickly because it'll be the kind of thing that we either just probably forget at the end. So just very quickly, he wanted to just remind people that you can submit your projects and case studies to the website if you want to, just so that you can show them off. It's always great to have some more examples on there, and it'd be great if you could send over any information. So he'll be in touch very soon with more information on that. And then the other one was, I've got the agenda on in there twice. Yeah, the other one was to get a feedback loop on help docs. So I think he plans to put something in Discord where we sort of, you can easily submit any issues with docs. We know that there's definitely some improvements that can be made. So just if there's some errors or better ways of getting a feedback loop going on with docs. Okay, so yeah, so I think we'll jump in then and just look at user roles and roadmap update first. So I've got a video I can quickly show you where we are with user roles. It's obviously quite similar to what we showed last time, but just now with a lot more options for how to set up your roles and basically showing that we're almost there and ready to release it. And then we'll quickly discuss some of the other ideas. So just going to pull that up now. I'll put this video on. I'll run it a couple of times while we're chatting, just so you can see. But essentially, you can still, we showed this bit last time, you can set up a role, you can copy permissions from an existing role. I'll show that again in a second, and then you can select all of the different features or things that you'd add, portal and site related on the right. It's all very, very granular. We wanted to make sure it was as flexible as possible. I think it was Nick who mentioned earlier whether we could create groups so that you don't have to tick each one. That's obviously something we could do UX-wise a little bit further down the line. The thinking at the moment is that, I'll just go back a little, but because we have this copy feature, copy all permissions from an existing role, in theory, you're going to have the existing ones that we already have, and then you're going to just be able to make new roles if you need to. So if you're trying to make another sort of admin style role, you take a copy of admin and just deselect or select the ones that you want. So yes, there's a little bit of setup work at the beginning to tick these boxes, but either you're copying from something already or you're doing it once and then shouldn't need to do too much later because you'll just copy and make a few changes. But yeah, we just tried to make it as flexible as possible. What we didn't want to find is that, you know, we've made decisions that then mean you can't create a specific type of role. So we just want you to be able to do whatever you want, and we'll tweak it later. I did mention earlier, the only thing that's probably missing is really drilling down into like specific module access or specific web apps or something like that. This is more about system features, yes or no, and CRUD rules than it is about every little different module or whatever it might be. So yeah, I'll leave that one playing again, but essentially you'll be able to fully manage those and set those up. Yeah, we'll have that released very soon. It does open up a lot of opportunities. I think we discussed it last time, where we now show the front. So this is somebody logged in as one of those roles. You'll see on the left-hand side, we've now got only a bit of the product showing. And that's actually really powerful. It's good in terms of training. You can just give people the bare minimum training because they've only got certain bits they can see. It stops them asking questions about things they don't need to. But my example was always on BC. We had people see things like CRM and they would say, oh, I don't need that. Can you charge me less or something? So being able to hide things they don't need is quite handy. But actually, what's exciting, I think, is what you could end up building. You could use Siteglide to build a completely different product from a normal website, and they can come in and just manage that product. So you might only give them access to one module, for example, and it might be a real estate listing web app or whatever it might be. But you can control it, all of that. Any questions on user roles specifically? Okay.
Sorry, just to jump in. Can you set user roles for like your agency and then apply it, or is it just for an individual account?
As in, so let's say a role of content writer, you want to say that would be for everybody in the agency?
Potentially, yeah. No, don't worry. Ignore me.
It'll be pretty easy on each user. So you'll be in your agencies area. On each user, it'll be pretty easy to add roles to them, and you can actually have multiple roles. So I don't think you'd want to do that. I think you'd want to, we're in a user now, you'd want to like add maybe a few different roles so that you can make it a bit more dynamic. Maybe we could do sort of some bulk thing later, but you shouldn't need to really.
No, I think that should be okay, actually, to be fair.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of V1 effectively of fully granular controls. I'm sure there'll be improvements either UI, UX wise, or even feature functionality wise later. But I think it's a good start because it should give you pretty much total control. I've been wanting for ages. Good. And then it's obviously been a huge job, and it's meant that we haven't really been able to focus too much on other things in the last few weeks. We did manage to get some things out, so things like the event module, export to attendees. We discussed this earlier, actually, and it's great to hear. It's really, really useful. But we were talking about whether we could take this and apply this to orders. I think Liz was suggesting this would be really useful on the order side of things. So there's hopefully things that we can use and reuse. I'll say another big one we did, which doesn't seem to be obviously there, but was the the liquid step triggers basically in automations. That's hopefully really powerful and allows you to do quite a bit more there. Don't know where that one's showing. So yeah, what we quickly wanted to discuss was next steps on the roadmap. We want to kind of do some quick wins, some smaller things that are more urgent for people. I'll tell you in a minute what we were thinking and what everyone else did this morning, but are there any big ones that jump out, ideally from the existing planned list? Anything that was a urgent one for you guys? Okay. We had a whole load last
Sorry,
week.
Luke. My attention is divided here.
Oh, okay, no worries. No worries. Well, we've got the recordings anyway, but yeah, if there is any kind of roadmap feature that's urgent for you, do let us know.
Sounds good.
So from the discussion earlier, product copy was one of the ones that, well, that came up first. And a few people definitely need that quite soon. So that's one we'd already planned to do. It was on the slide deck I showed earlier. So we'd already planned that one. And the other one is order custom fields. So two e-commerce related ones. We plan to get those done pretty quickly. After that, it was, we actually ended up having quite a long discussion around menu builder. And rather than doing, so one option is do a massive overhaul, which would be a bit like user roles, where it just takes up a whole load of time. The conclusion from earlier was that it would be better to add a few bits of functionality into what we've already got, and then do things like studio improvements as well, because I think everyone's finding that there's a few bugs and little things in studio that could be a lot better. So if we tackle those two as improvements rather than massive overhaul, we go from, yeah, I mean, we massively reduce the timeline on that. So the key things that people wanted on Menu Builder were being able to link to other types of data, so web app items, module items, categories, that kind of stuff, and enable disable were the two big ones, I think. Any comments or feedback there on Menu Builder?
I was just gonna add, I was playing around with the menu builder, just adding a couple like new sections, nothing major. It didn't seem super intuitive.
No.
Once you click the ad, like there was no, it didn't seem like, item was added or whatever. And then I realized down the bottom there, I had like added 10 of them because, I kept.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, that's probably just the way it works at this point. But I mean, and that's like a minor, that would be something super minor. But I like the ideas of all the other adding, to make it a fully functioning menu type, being able to add, web app items or, different types of links. I think that would be very handy.
I never really like doing fixes or improvements on something that we know we want to overhaul because it's a waste of time. But I think in this case, they're such important improvements, and the others, the really big structural changes seemed less relevant to everybody earlier. I think we will go that route because I agree, it's not usable enough at the moment. We know everyone wants those things, so let's add those in. And then everyone seemed to agree earlier that if we did that, we could then leave Menu Builder alone for a good amount of time. Cool.
Yeah, because I mean, I also combine where I'm just add the menu in the code sometimes, with different types of things. So
yeah,
it's not a. I mean, it's nice. It didn't bother me, but it, like I said, adding those other capabilities, different types of links other than just pages and things like that.
Yeah,
would be handy.
Another thing that was discussed was sort of mega menus, the concept of being able to add all sorts of different data in there. I think this would solve a lot of that. I think it was Rox that was saying even like a code snippet, being able to add that in, it would allow him to put in, or a form, I think, allow you to put in different stuff into a mega menu. So yeah, I think it opens a lot of doors.
Like a Google map, take, the Google Maps are just this, sometimes they can be so large, I mean, you can shorten them, but still.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I think I'll just give you guys, more functionality quicker, and then we'll come back to it in the future. I did also suggest that potentially we could have a good enough menu builder from doing that, and then if somebody really wanted to do like an advanced one or a different type of menu builder, that could end up being a module in the marketplace, and there's no reason why it has to be. We do obviously need a core one, but there's no reason why there can't be modules on top. So yeah, cool. Thought that was the plan for now. And then Studio being the other big one. It's not in this list, but because of that decision, and we knew that there was there's some bugs that are really not good, and there's some quick, like, good improvements that we can make to Studio to make it a bit more usable. So we want to get on with that pretty quickly, I think. We may end up doing something bigger as well, but at least we can get on and do those kind of things and give you fixes straight away. Yeah, I think those were the main things discussed earlier. Is there anything else that jumps out for anybody in terms of a really frustrating workaround or something that would stop you doing a project? It's always good to have silence, I guess. But no, I'm sure there is more.
There was one.
Yeah, I feel like I've always felt like in the past you need to say something, but you know, I don't know, to each his own, I guess. Some people like feedback, you know, some people are okay with just.
Can you scroll that list down?
Oh yeah, sure.
Disable cases.
Custom fields on categories is a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually, again, I don't know why I'm picking on the minor things, but I like the email me button for autoresponders, because when you're designing it, it's kind of nice to just have a little quick thing. But again, that's a minor thing. Okay, I just wanted to see what was on the bottom there.
Yeah, sure. Liz actually mentioned reporting again. We had a bit of quite a long discussion about that. And while we definitely should improve reporting in the platform, we also talked about whether we can use like GraphIQL to let people kind of build their own queries and their own reports, because it's such a powerful, we've got all of that with Platform OS. It's such a powerful way of reporting on things. So there might be room for both, really. Standard simple reports that anybody could run, a customer could run, and then obviously more complex data reports that that agencies could access for their customers. I think that's probably something you do, Josh, already. If you need some data, I imagine you just use GraphQL.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, so maybe doing some sort of dashboard at some point or whatever to make it easier to build your own data would be good. But we definitely do want to get it into the UI as well.
I got a question for you, Luke.
Yeah, go for it.
So now that we're years into, you know, the transition from BC into the new platform and that kind of thing, way back in the day when we first made that change, right? The original idea behind Siteglide was we don't want to duplicate BC necessarily. We want to make it a platform that allows you to build whatever you want to build and integrate with whatever you want to integrate with. But now that we're years into it, is that kind of the same philosophy, or have there been issues where there would be a desire to have more, I guess you could say, included into Siteglide, baked in, instead of having to go out to third-party solutions to solve that? Because like one of the things that I'm looking at specifically is, you know, I'm looking at having to pay fees to these other services that clients, you know, might want to integrate with, you know, like an intercom solution, you know, for example, an on-site chat solution, or analytics, right? Google Analytics is good, but it's bloated, and
Yeah.
it's not something that we typically send people to. So I've been using other solutions, but those solutions are paid,
Yeah.
And so by the time I add in this feature, that feature, this functionality, I've got, billing relationships with 5 different solutions just to
Mhm.
create, one single solution for a client. I wonder if there's more desire from the community of the platform, including more things like that, so that we don't have to go out and pay $25 a month here with this person and $50, that kind of thing.
Mm. It's a great question. There's quite a few questions in there, really. And I mean, in a dream world, we would have endless capacity to build out anything. And yeah, I think we would want to add in more and more of that so that you've got more out of the box. But just taking your 2 examples, I don't really think many platforms offer things like chat built in. And even if they do, you've then got to think, well, is it going to be as powerful as something like Intercom? That's a completely separate product set up for marketing automation, all those kind of things. So it's very, very tricky to be sort of one-stop shop for everything. And I think that's where probably BC, I think everyone agrees, so BC went a little bit wrong. But then having said that, there's some features that you do want out of the box. And I think we kind of have to focus there first. So if somebody's doing e-commerce, for example, there's some minimum requirements that you have to have within the product, and we'll obviously keep looking at those. Then there's some things that potentially can be marketplace driven and nice add-ons that someone else has done. Potentially, again, you've got the cost issue there because they could be paid and how are they charged and that kind of stuff. And then you've got integrations, which I do think the way everything's going is more and more integration based because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. APIs are definitely the way to share data and everything nowadays. So, and especially with things like AI coming along, I think there's going to be even more of that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, I think probably multiple billing relationships is probably the right answer. Ideally, there would be ways to simplify it and make it easier to manage the billing, but we're never going to build all of the things that any one project might need. So no, to try and answer the first part of your question, I don't really think that's changed because of everything I've just said. We cannot try and just build out feature after feature after feature, but not make the platform more accessible to build anything. So we always try and start with, well, let's give you something that enables you to do way more. So a good example is that triggers feature on automations. Being able to then build X process into it is really powerful. And we'd rather give you more and more of those kind of things. And I guess ideally have the community offer more in the marketplace would be the best way to do it and leverage time better. So I don't think BC is the problem anymore. It doesn't matter where we came from. We could have started from scratch. We could have come from another platform. The way it is now is there's a lot of complexity that people just expect and need. Where are you going to get it from? And it's either a case of expecting it in a product, but the product probably is a bit more limited and doesn't give you the customization. You have to buy it as an add-on, or you have to go and integrate it and buy it separately. I think it has to be sort of one of those three, really.
Yeah.
Does that in any way answer your question? Oh, sorry.
I'll add to that. I know what you're saying about being able to have less billing because since I transitioned from BC, it's like I had to set up a whole separate account just to handle all the separate little integrations that I have. It's not just Siteglide I use another platform. I'm not going to mention it, but it doesn't do anything. You have to pay for all these things. But one thing I found, like for example, I agree that trying to do everything is very nice, is very handy to have, but there's limitations. The BC's email marketing was the worst, and I had so many clients relying on it, and we would just pull our hair out, just it was so archaic, and so I've been using, like, for example, MailChimp and it's an integrated system too. It's not something that's directly built into Siteglide, but it's so much a better platform because that's all they do. They just focus in on that, and there's reporting and everything, and so my clients are just way more happy. And I have them, I'll bill them or whatever, or they don't mind paying that, but it is a separate cost. But I weigh out the difference of, with BC, I was stuck with this super archaic email marketing thing that just wasn't really working as well, to now, okay, I've got a much better integrated system. So that's the argument for. Not saying not saying that that's anything against, because I'd love to see, for example, the web apps become way more powerful, because the web apps, Josh, for example, has built some pretty cool stuff with one of my clients using web apps, and it's just all built in, for the most part, Siteglide, and kind of interfaces with Stripe and things like that. But so, I mean, it's the capabilities there, but I agree with trying to do too much. Sometimes that takes away from some of the other main focuses of what the platform should be about. But anyway.
Yeah, and I don't even mean like everything, per se. I would say, maybe think of it in terms of like industry standard things or popular things. For example, something off the top of my head that comes to mind is cookies, right? Ever since, the whole privacy issue and all of that kind of stuff, pretty much any website that I go to nowadays, I'm always getting that pop up at the bottom, usually at the bottom, that says this site uses cookies. Click here to set your cookie preferences. That seems like something that would be beneficial for everybody straight across the board. Right. And they don't even have to turn it off. It could be an option that they tick if they want to use it, enter the information, boom, and it's just integrated rather than have to pay a third-party company to inject the cookie situation on a site. Or chat. Chat is popular. It may not be industry standard, but it's popular, kind of thing. What could be an easy integration for a chat feature? Again, through the back end, they could tick it on or tick it off if they don't want to use it, but it's there if they want to spin it up. Things like that. I understand that any one given project, no, we're not going to cater to something like that because that may not benefit the whole. I just mean maybe industry standard things or more popular things would be nice.
Totally agree. And some of those should definitely be there. I believe the cookies one, Josh, I believe we have launched that, or we have it at least as a Sitegurus module in the marketplace. I know Matt Jones is working on that. Do you know anything there?
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, but I'll reach out to MJ on that, and we'll get something out to you, DJ.
But it's a great example. A great example. I know Helen's actually done one as well. She's done way more than that with the personalization process, and been talking to her about that recently because there's so much potential there for personalization, and you kind of have to have that built in. That's one of the big selling points of Siteglide, I think, is that if you have all your data and everything in one place, then you can start to do clever things like personalization. So yeah, I think she's about to release potentially. I don't think Helen's here still. She said she had to jump off, but I think she's got a module that she might be releasing shortly that might help with that. And she's definitely got a cookie one as well. So yeah, great examples that, yeah, of course, as Siteglide, we could put those in, but in many cases, there will be different options, and it's probably better that someone says, well, I've used this one on this site, so I'm going to make it available in the marketplace, for example. But then there'll be some stuff that really should be core, like Stripe obviously had to be core to the platform because it's dealing with money and security and everything. So yeah, I think we probably just need more discussion around what's missing and working out where the solution comes from. Is it core, is it marketplace, or is it integration? But really good questions, and especially when it comes to AI, that's what I want to be looking at next. Like, what should we be doing? What potentially can be leveraged? There's no point us spending all our time learning AI inside out when there's some great integration. So yeah, it's just a case of knowing what's needed. I do think we struggle to always know what's missing and what you guys ideally would could benefit from.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, just conscious of time as well. So I think what I'll do is go over the Sitegurus stuff, and then I'm done. And then obviously we can just discuss any other topics and that kind of thing. So I'll just share my screen again, just 1 second. Where are we? Here we go. So yeah, really want to just give you an update on some work that Josh and I mainly have been doing actually on Sitegurus, just so that everyone's aware of how it fits in with the ecosystem, how people might find it, that kind of stuff, and any feedback on how we're doing it. So we want to make sure that we're agency focused as always, and we want to make sure that anybody who's not an agency, so an end customer, site owner, whatever it might be, can find their way to an agency very easily. So we've always had the find an expert bit under community, but we've now added a services tab sort of on the top level to really help people realize that they need to potentially find somebody to work with. So we've put a bit of information in, and it just links you off to the experts page with a list of agencies on there. Now, if they're not if they're not looking for an agency, we've written sort of underneath, if you are an agency and you're looking for some help, then further down for agencies, we've got the Sitegurus offering. So we're trying to be very, very clear that Sitegurus is there to assist agencies. Having said that, we still have to make it public somehow. We have to make sure that people can click through to it and read about it. So people can now go to this new site or page that we've put live, and that is public to see. It explains all about it, but we're making sure that we've positioned it towards agencies. Information about the platform, the service. We've changed the UI, which you'll see in a second, just really simplified it to make it focus on just creating tasks, discussing, getting a budget, and then working through it. Going to be adding more and more services in there again. We used to have them and we kind of took them away, but some fixed price packages, fixed price services, modules, hopefully from the marketplace that we're going to keep adding. And then a new one, the ability to sort of do roadmap fast tracking. So probably more when you need a module or you need a feature like we've just talked about, any of those kind of things. That's something that Sitegurus can assist with and help build, and potentially even fast track some roadmap features. So if there's just something that you need that the community just doesn't want or can't justify putting it at the top of the list, we can help you get that done if needs be. And then finally, obviously, just fixed price work as well. Bit on Site Builder and how Site Builder as a process works and why it's so much quicker and faster. And then just quickly, we put some pricing on there. That's public pricing. So we've set a rate that's higher publicly, just to kind of make sure that there's an offering, but then if you're an agency, you get a discounted rate. So just using this as an example, we've now done it on 3 models. You either buy an hour, you buy in days, or you buy in weeks. So we're giving a discount based on buying more. And there's also a concept of saving an extra 10% if you do subscribe and save, which is the original concept we had for membership. So that's where you do a minimum of 3 months on that same amount. So if you did that, you get an extra 10% off. So that's bringing the sort of per hour cost down as much as we possibly can. But as I say, this is public pricing. Any Siteglide agencies, when you click through from Siteglide, which will be a button we'll have very, very soon, you'll get the agency rates. So I think they're taking an hour is $100. If we go through into the portal, I'm logged in as an agency. If I try and buy some time, you'll see that the agency rate is 80, and you can get that down to 54. We've managed to bring that down to if you buy in bulk. We also have to be very careful at the volume end, because especially nowadays prices are going up and up, so we just have to be very careful. But we still want to really position it for agencies and make sure that you guys can tap into some help and be able to resell it to your customers and build it into your project pricing and stuff. So you can either buy in hours, days, or weeks, or you can do custom on there. And once you go over 40, you get the lower price, the lowest price, sorry. Yeah, so just making sure you're aware of that, just in case you go into the UI and notice anything different, or if somebody mentions it to you and didn't realize. So just want to make sure everybody's aware. Just some updates in terms of, we've made the task process simpler. So you can now, all you do now is just type in the name, the description, and you pick whether it's pay as you go or fixed price. Either one will just take you through to picking whether it's standard or whether you want it expedited, and that's it. And after that, you've got the task built. From there on, you just start discussing, really. And rather than trying to have everything all agreed before you create it, the idea now is that you can just create tasks, start discussing them, and you've got the full history there forever. So at some point you'll end up agreeing on the amount of time because you've scoped it out. We'll have a new feature soon where it will show you like a quote button, and you can accept that rather than having to manually add budget here. But you'll be able to see a whole history and log of what you've been doing in each task from the very beginning. We kind of have that already, but it's just a bit of a summary just to make sure it's clear for everybody. And yeah, just a few new UI bits, some of it branding changes and some of it just improvements in terms of the experience, especially with the dashboard now just having your task Kanban. Any questions at all on the Sitegurus side of things?
So no more credits, huh?
Good point. I haven't actually mentioned that. All we've literally done is swap credits for hours. 10 credits was an hour. We've literally just divided by 10 from your perspective. So it's exactly the same thing. It's just done in hours.
Yeah, because the price looks about the same, but I guess because I would always work when I was working with Josh, how many credits is this? And it always would come back to hours, kind of. But
exactly. So actually, the back end, so our view is still in credits. We can flick between credits and hours easily, and always have been able to. So you'll probably find that people manage to still say credits when we should be talking in hours.
Yeah,
you can do either.
Be me,
it doesn't matter.
I'm used to credits, but I was just looking at that because I just logged into my account and I see, oh, I've got hours now instead of credits on my stuff. So that's
fine. You didn't just lose 90%, don't
worry. No, I didn't lose anything, but it's calculating. It's like, wait a minute, I thought I had more credits than that. Oh, it's hours.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. I was thinking it was a bug or something, and I was actually going to reach out and ask, why does mine say 0.5 now instead of, because I thought I had 5 credits left or something, and I was like, oh, I guess that's changed.
Well, that's why we launched it late yesterday, and obviously knew we were doing the call today, so we wanted to be able to run through it with you. Just quickly on the pricing, just to make sure. Obviously, it's basically the same. The hour rate, just for an hour on its own with no subscribe and save, it's gone up by 5, I think. But on subscribe and save, which is only 3 hours, 1 each month, is now lower. So swings and roundabouts there. But then in terms of the higher amounts, they're a lot easier to get onto. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like Josh, you might know, but it was quite a bit higher to get the discounted rates. So hopefully it's more accessible now.
Another thing as well, if you turn off the subscribe and save, obviously we've got the discounts if you're buying more credits in the first place as well. So
that's what I was going to ask.
So before it was just
I try to just buy chunks of credits, when I can, knowing that, okay, I've got some in my queue and it's little stupid things that we got to do. Not stupid, but little small things. And then for like big jobs, we'll just get a whole estimate for it. So, but I think the hours to me is going to make more sense anyway. So I'm good with having them be explaining hours versus credits.
I think that was a really good point from Josh, though, that because we had membership before and we took away the ability to get a discount on buying hours on its own, we wanted to just simplify it and go, look, we don't mind whether you want to buy 10 hours up front, maybe 100's a better example, or you whether want to buy it over a course of 3 to 6 months. We want to give you a discount either way. It's just obviously we want to add added incentive if you do go on to some sort of plan with us, because it's less admin. It's nice to know, but you're not tied in for too long. So hopefully it kind of makes sense. You got a lot more flexibility.
Cool.
Yeah, we really have tried this. Normally, when you redo pricing, it's upwards, but we've really tried to make sure it's accessible, and like it's really in our interest, my interest, I guess, across both teams and companies, is we want to help you guys do more with the platform. So we don't want it to be that you have to spend a huge amount to be able to get a rate that makes sense. We wanted it to kind of be in simple terms of, look, do you need an hour? Do you need a day? Or do you need a week? We'll help you. They never expire, as always. Just buy whatever suits your needs, your budget, whatever it might be.
Well, and Josh and Gary are pretty good at estimating time for me when I have issues, but sometimes there's little glitches. We'll run over and they'll say, yeah, we need to add a few more credits, and that's not a big deal. So
yeah, and we'll always do fixed price for you as well, if you'd rather, if you have a tight,
yeah, if I'm bidding something, I
budget.
like that, because that helps me, when I'm bidding a client. But yeah,
cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, check out the new site at some point. Any feedback would be very welcome. Just put it together quite quickly, to be honest, but there'll be more updates there, I'm sure. I think that was everything I wanted to show on my side. Any questions from anybody, or any things to raise?
I'm good, I think.
Cool.
Nothing else comes to mind for me right now, but other than the issue with that I kind of woke up to this morning. I had a client call and say, hey, how come our website isn't displaying correctly? And then, of course, I immediately went to Discord and found a post by Helen. And in that thread, discovered that there was an issue with AWS, I guess. Some external resources aren't loading and things like that. So has that been worked out, or?
It's a very weird one, actually. AWS, as we all know, is normally incredibly unreliable. I don't think any of us have experienced many issues from BC going to it in what, 2012, roughly 2013, until now. Yeah, they just seem to have had a couple of stability issues over the last 2 weeks. They had an issue about 2 weeks ago that caused POS some trouble, and they fixed that within hours, I think. So it did mean a bit of downtime. Whereas this has just been slow. We've been looking at the logs, and it's just strangely slow. I'd have to double check whether that's still ongoing, but very unlike them, and I'm sure it'll be resolved quickly.
Is there a specific status for each of the locations on Siteglide or Platform OS? I guess it was what it would be, as to like you can check a status. So like if you had a client who was asking what the deal is. Okay.
So you've got R1.
That's what you guys
click.
Okay.
And
which
when you click into,
I use that. Yeah, that's what I usually use, but I was wondering if there was a separate one.
Okay, so this will give you ours, but with all of these, there's some degree of, how strict is it? What's it going to catch? So you might find sometimes that there's an issue and it doesn't actually track it. But what this is doing is every minute it's checking whether a certain site in London, Oregon, and Sydney is loading, and it should pick up issues. You'll notice API, it picks those up. And we're dealing with, there's been a few issues with that recently, which we're dealing with as well. If you don't see anything here and things aren't working, then your next step is status.platformos.com.
Okay.
Where, to be honest, you probably won't get anything different to ours.
Yeah, you're probably reading that same data.
We're not reading the data, but we're checking the same sites not the same sites, but the same stacks in the same way. Okay. So it's likely to be similar, especially these three down here. Now, I wish I could just give you a link for AWS, but they make it really, really hard. So there are some good ones, and I'll make sure we try and kind of share the best way of doing it. But some of them are only if you're logged in, some of them are only if there's an open issue, that kind of stuff. But this is the one I think we're talking about from yesterday, apparently. They log these things, but then they disappear. So unfortunately, I don't have the best answer for you. I think this is the best page, actually. Yeah, I think this one actually, if I can remember.
I mean, they have so many servers. I guess I can understand it. So many,
Yeah, and I think if you type in here like Oregon,
okay,
it will then filter down.
I figured there was something like this, but I've always just looked at the status on Siteglide, and it seems like I mean, honestly, never really. There was that one glitch about, like you said, 3 or 4 weeks ago that was,
yeah,
couldn't log in or something. That was the first time I think that I recall there was an issue.
That's one of the first like proper AWS issues I've seen for a long time. The one I mentioned here,
proper is the right word, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Outage, I guess. The one that you'll see here that we do have more than we'd like at the moment is on the API. It's linked to, it's actually nobody's fault really, but it's linked to different systems connected together. So there's ours connecting to a platform OS stack, which is obviously AWS, and just sometimes there's been some what you call it, timeouts and delays, and we're talking to them about how to improve that. So that's likely to be resolved or a lot better pretty soon, but it never affects front-end sites, and that was the one thing I wanted to really make sure everyone's aware of. It should only ever affect
login,
CLI, which is frustrating, admin sometimes, and then the API. Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll see it doesn't normally affect admin. Right. So it's generally just frustrating if you're trying to do some work.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think that hopefully covers it. I will share a AWS link, or we'll put it in the status Discord as well if we can find something that's actually readable. But I mean that isn't.
Yeah, that's
so, yeah.
I would
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where to start there.
No. Yeah. Okay. So DJ, sorry, obviously apologies as well. That was all with AWS, and we'll track down whether they've resolved it. It looks like they're saying they have, but again, I can't even understand their reports, because apparently that was resolved yesterday. But I think there were some issues today, so not too sure.
Yeah, Colin said that it works for him, but it wasn't loading for me, so I'll have to figure out if that's a caching issue or what's going on my end. But
yeah,
yeah, it's loading now. I just now loaded it, and it's loading fine for me now. So
yeah, don't hesitate to obviously drop a message into either a channel in Discord or speak to us directly, and we'll always look into it and do the best we can to give you updates and fix it.
Sure.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, anything else? Okay, I think we'll probably leave it there then. Yeah, do check out the other recording if you get some time. I'm sure you can sort of fast forward some bits, but there's some good bits in there, and we'll try and do a write-up as well and share some of the key points, and we'll update what we're doing on the roadmap. I think we've got a really good idea from everybody now what to focus on, which is always really helpful. But yeah, thank you very much. Good to catch up, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
You too.